Thanks, Jeff. So can you evaluate the offense as a whole and how much progress it's made since the start of camp?
Well, I would go all the way back to spring practice, Rich, on that, to really evaluate it. When you bring in a new system, it's obviously like learning a new language. So, in the spring, it was up and down, and I felt like in the blue-white game it was okay, and I was concerned about it going into the summertime, and I knew that, because of the rules that we weren't allowed to meet with these guys in the summertime, that the guys were going to have to do a lot on their own. And so we came into training camp, and obviously many of the guys on offense did a lot of work on their own, and got together and either threw routes or worked on blocking schemes on their own, or did some things that really helped them coming into training camp. So I believe we've made progress, but there's such a long way to go. Yesterday we show them every week a good and bad tape from the previous game and the Saturday game, and so it's about 50-50 on offense, good and bad. So there's so many things to improve upon and so many things to build upon, but I do believe that progress has been made.
Bob Flounders in Harrisburg.
Yeah, Bill, I wanted to ask you a question about your recruiting approach, and I know you can't discuss any names, but I was just wondering, Bill, how big of a priority is it for you to kind of identify future place pickers and punters, and how big of a challenge is it with your recruiting sanctions and your numbers being limited as far as offense?
It's always it will always be a big priority to identify, obviously all the positions of need, and obviously that includes place kicker and a punter. Ideally you'd like a guy that could do both, so it's one person. But at the end of the day, you just have to do a really good job of identifying, and it does. You're right, Bob. You're on the money there, because with the scholarship reductions, if you have a great punter and place kicker out there that you'd like to compete in recruiting with, you have to offer them a scholarship. Then that's going to affect your overall numbers. So that's a strategy that we're talking about every day. It's a ever evolving strategy, but it's something that we're very, very well aware of.
Derek LaVarse in Wilkes-Barre.
The defense has done a much better job getting off the field on third down the past few weeks. How much of that is personnel, getting Mike Hall on the field, moving Amos back to safety, and how much of it is just execution?
Yeah, really, when you look at the whole year, the defense has played pretty well. I would say, if you look at the first two games, if the offense had either kept drives alive by converting on third down or scored more points, then obviously I'd say all 5 games that the defense has played very well. There's a lot of guys on this defense that really understand their role and are fun to be around, and Mike Hull's a guy that really understands what his role is on the team as a backup linebacker. He's really not. He's basically a semi-starter because he plays such a big role on defense and on special teams. So he's a fun guy to have around. Who's the other guy you asked about there?
Just saying how on third down, Paulson getting on the field and moving Amos back to safety. I was wondering how much of a difference that's made for you guys on third down.
Yeah, obviously we've concentrated a lot on third down in practice. We do we work on third down every single day in practice. So we make our players very aware of the sticks and the yardage and on both sides of the ball. And I think our team's improved in that area. Amos is a guy that is an excellent young player who can move around a lot, and he's a big guy. He's a physical guy. He's got good ball skills. He's instinctive, and he's just done a nice job overall for us this year.
Mark Vogenrich in Allentown.
So what were your impressions of that? The wide receiver came called to the wide receiver formation that Northwestern used last week.
Well, that's a guy that you have to understand on every single snap where he is. So here's a guy that they're doing a great job with Northwestern of putting him in position to make plays. Obviously a quarterback, but then when they move him to wide receiver with his skill set, he's quick, he's got good ball skills, he's a very bright guy, obviously. In order to play quarterback and receiver in the same game, you've got to be a very, very smart, instinctive football player. And so he's a huge challenge for us on Saturday, just like the whole team. Northwestern coming in here is the best team that we faced. Pat's done an excellent job there of just putting an excellent team together, an undefeated team, and we've got a huge challenge ahead of us on Saturday.
Frank Bodani in York.
I was wondering if you could offer any more insight into Zach Dwinek's success the last couple of weeks, not only just gaining yards, but he seems like he's literally punishing defenders as he runs.
Well, he just like all those guys at that position, they've all had their moments. In the last 2 weeks, he's had decent games. And, just like I told all those guys yesterday, though, is don't get too comfortable, because you got a team coming in here on Saturday that's 5-0 that's ready to stop that. So, but I believe he's worked hard in practice. I think he's a competitive kid, and it's really, really important to him to play football at Penn State, to go to school at Penn State, and he's done a nice job the last 2 weeks, but we got 7 more to go, so he's got to keep it going.
Joe Giuliano, Philadelphia.
Yeah, hi Bill. Could you go back to your first meeting with Michael Bonnie after you took the job, what you thought of him, and how you thought he would embrace everything you wanted him to do, and has he embraced that, how quickly he embraced the leadership part of it?
I'd say the first time I met Mike Motti was the night that basically I was hired here, or the day of the press conference. That night I had a team meeting, and he came right up to me after the meeting and had a lot of questions about our strength and conditioning program. So I knew right away that he was a passionate football player. I knew about his family. I knew that his dad had played here and been a great player here and played in the National Football League for several years. And so I could tell right away that football is very important to Michael. And then as I got to know that whole senior class, which is what, we talk about Michael Motti a lot, and Michael would be the first to tell you that there's a lot of guys in that class. The Zordiches, the Hodges, the Hills, the Fagnanos, the Morrises. I mean, you go right down the line. This is I don't know, again, I have no idea what's going to happen this year. Like I always tell you, I'm not a genie, but I do know that this is a very special group of kids that practice very hard and have excellent leadership qualities.
Mike Gross in Lancaster.
Hi, Bill. Northwestern, 256 yards and rushing per game and 14 touchdowns. What are they doing right, and what can you do about it?
Well, they're doing a lot of things right, and we're going to, we started last night with practice, and we're trying to figure out what we can do about it, that's for sure, but we got a long way to go this week. They do a nice job with their tempo. They play very fast. They do a great job of spreading you out and making you make plays in space, and they do a really good job of that. And so, these are things that we've got to understand this week. We have to understand who their top players are, where they are in the formation. We have to understand which quarterback's in the game. Quite obviously, when you gain 700 yards in a game on offense, you're talking about a top-notch team. I mean, if not for the Baylor-West Virginia game, everybody would be talking about Northwestern gaining 700 yards in their game. So, they're an excellent football team, well coached, and we've got a big challenge this week.
Donnie Collins in Scranton.
So you've been around a lot of college athletes, and I'm wondering, work ethic-wise, how does John Herschel compare to the rest of them? How impressed are you with what he's done on the field and off the field?
Really very, very impressed with John Herschel. What a fantastic kid. Again, like I've said this before about all these guys, John's got another year, thank God. But really an older player on our team, and what a great guy to be around. That's why you want a job like this, because you have a chance to coach and be around guys like that. Here's a guy that's a 4.0 math major at Penn State. He's graded out at 90% last week in the Illinois game. Just a tough guy, has great flexibility, very smart, very instinctive. Just really what Penn State's all about, John Herschel. And so, again, like I said, we're happy with the way he's playing, and we're really lucky that we have him for another year.
Scott Brown in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, hey Bill, you've seen a number of games across the country that are producing basketball scores, and you referenced earlier some of the
the yards that's being piled up. And just wondering, our offense is that much ahead of defenses now in college football, and so why?
I don't know. I think, I believe it's somewhat trendy. I have a great friend out in Oregon, Chip Kelly, who I've known for a lot of years, and he's just put up incredible offensive numbers out there, and really what it's about is what you believe in, and those guys really have a strong belief in spread offenses and making it a track meet in the sense that you're going to play very fast, you're going to try to run 90 plays a game and things like that. And that's what they believe in, and that's what football's all about. You have to stick with what you believe in. And so, I don't know if it's the fact that defenses aren't as good and things like that. I just think it's you've got a lot of good athletes on both sides of the ball, and when you spread teams out, you have a really athletic quarterback like West Virginia has. I didn't happen to see the game, but just reading about it and then listening to the commentators and things like that talk about the game, you could tell that that was an up and down football game, fun to watch, but not a lot of defense. So, I just think it's two spread teams that went at it and put good numbers on the board. But again, every year the trend might be a little bit different.
Okay, Brian, at this point,